Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Classic Vinyl Podcast and our Meet the Beatles series. Today, we're going to do She Loves You and I'll Get You. And, of course, during our Meet the Beatles series, we won't do what we normally do and go over band history because we assume you know about the Beatles, but obviously...
Ladies and gentlemen, a band that needs no introduction.
But we will tell you, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. My favorite band and the greatest selling artist of all time, and we're going through the Beatles in chronological history, or the best that we can, and today we're going to do the singles She Loves You and I'll Get You. So you ready to get the song review?
I am.
And now it's time for the song review.
So today on our Meet the Beatles episode, we're going to do She Loves You and I'll Get You, A and B-sided single. Now let me give you a little information about She Loves You.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this song was released on August 23rd of 1963 in the UK and September 16th of 1963 in the US, so almost a month later. So this was written by Lennon and McCartney, and as they did with a lot of their early songs, they wrote this one in a hotel room facing each other with their guitars. And they did that a lot, you know, whether it be in their homes or wherever it was, they're out on tour. That's how they did a lot of their writing at the time. This song is sang in harmony basically by both Paul and John, but John's voice is definitely more prominent in this one than Paul's, which is kind of the case in a lot of those early ones. This was recorded at EMI Studios in London and produced by Sir George Martin. So this was released as a single in the UK, and it was released on the Beatles' second album in the US. And of course, we got that weird thing where all the Capitol releases up until Sgt. Pepper's were different in the U.S. than they were in the U.K. The B-side of this was I'll Get You, which was actually recorded on the same day as this song. It's kind of funny because nowadays songs take months and months to record and master and all that. They could put down 4 or 5 songs in a day, and they're still getting played to this day.
Well, they're paying by the hour for the studio time, right?
I guess so. What's kind of interesting about this song, too, is over 500,000 copies were advanced ordered in the U.K., which set several U.K. sales records. And it reached number 1 in the U.S. and the UK, of course, and all over the world. This song did not do very well in the U.S. originally, but Once I Want to Hold Your Hand hit number 1 in January 1964. This song actually by March had replaced I Want to Hold Your Hand in the top spot, number 1 in the U.S. And they're one of only 2 artists in the U.S. whose first 2 singles held the top 2 places in the charts, and they also held all 5 top spots in the U.S. charts at the time and broke all kinds of Billboard chart records that no other band had done at the time.
Wow.
This, and I Want to Hold Your Hand, is what really launched Beatlemania here in the U.S. I mean, these are the first things, you know, when you hear Ed Sullivan and that 1964 performance and She Loves You, this is really what broke into Beatlemania, of course. And like many early Beatles songs, this song was framed around personal pronouns. They used a lot of that, you know, from me to you, she loves you. It was a common thing with the singer of the song narrating the song, basically about 2 other people. Mm-hmm. You know, kind of a third person take.
Well, yeah. He's the best friend that's been watching the relationship, right?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, it sounds kind of silly now, but that was a different take on music at the time.
I suppose it would have been, yeah.
Yeah. This song obviously features the famous yeah-yeahs in it that the Beatles are well known for and shaking their head at the time that drove all the girls crazy and made them pee their pants and things.
Well, that'll happen.
Yeah. This song, it's, I mean, one of the early hits, and one kind of neat thing about this song is you can hear the chorus of the song, She Loves You, in the fade out of the 1967 song, All You Need Is Love. And it's one of 2 Beatles songs that were re-recorded in German. She liebt dich. Is that how you say it?
Sounds like it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I Want to Hold Your Hand, which was Komm, gib mir die Hand.
Komm, gib mir dein Hand.
And only the lyrics to I Want to Hold Your Hand were re-recorded. They actually re-recorded I Want to Hold Your Hand in German over the original backing track. But when they did She Loves You in German, they did the whole song from scratch. If you can hear that version, which we did listen to, it is a different backing track.
Yeah.
It is a little bit different. Seems almost messier in a way, but it's kind of cool too. So,
well, I mean, they were in Germany.
Well, I don't think they recorded in Germany, but
maybe they didn't.
So, She Loves You remains the band's best-selling single in the UK, and it was the top-selling single in all the 60s, and was the top-selling single in the UK until Paul McCartney's song "Mull Kintyre" passed it in 1977. So, it was a pretty popular song. We could put it that way.
14 years to top it. Wow, and only topped by himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But I think now it remains like the 6th or 7th best selling of all time. But
Still impressive.
Considering population and things like that, you know how you always do that with money, you taking in account for inflation. I wonder if they do that with population.
They should.
They should. So Tyler, what is your history with "She Loves You"? You've obviously heard this song before.
Obviously, I think this is your quintessential early Beatles, and I've heard this. I have not heard the flip side. This was first time that, but we'll get to that later. This song's all over the radio. It's played for good reason. Excellent song. So beautiful. That's my experience with it.
So after listening to "She Loves You" for the purpose of reviewing it, what are your thoughts on it?
It's so interesting to listen to songs to review and critique them, because this is the first time I've actively listened to this song and actively listened to it twice through. Boy, I'm just
three times. We listened to the German version too.
Yeah, She liebt dich. Yeah.
Well, for the listeners, we listened to the original version of this, we listened to the German version, and we listened to the 2023 remix that was pulled apart by the Mouse software and kind of reconstructed. So we listened to those 3 different versions.
The optimized Beatles, if you will.
You get a lot of arguments on that. I see it both ways, you know, but I mean, as big of a Beatles fan as I am, I don't get into that confusing, you know, I like this version better than that. I like the fact that we can have as many versions as we want, because if you don't like the new version, good on you. Yeah. Listen to your original version. Exactly. If you don't like the original, you've got the new, and if you like them all, listen to them all. That's what's great about this band, is there's so much to devour.
Yeah. So I will tell you about this song, listening to it, right out of the gates. You have the whole band jumping in with all their instruments, all their voices into that chorus of "She Loves You." Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Except Ringo. We don't want to hear his voice in this.
Well, he's a little, he's on the drums in the back. Okay.
Fair enough.
We don't see him because, he's hidden by the drums. We don't hear him because he's behind Paul or something like that. I can only akin this thing to the storming of the beaches of Normandy. This is the initial strike where the invasion of the British invasion begins. Boy, it's exciting, because that's what it sounds like. They're just right out of the gates, and they're, heading up those beaches, and all the girls, their knickers are just soaking, hitting the floor, because they're going incontinent. They're losing their minds over these boys, and rightly so. These guys are amazing. And boy, this song is just so much fun. And the topic of it is you got this friend who has his best friend, his bestie, who has done something that hurt his girlfriend. Oh, he's so sad. And he thinks he's lost her. But his friend saw her, and he's like, "She still loves you, bro. I think you need to go and apologize, because a love like that is pretty rare to find, and you've got it in her." And so it's just such a awesome, inspiring song about how deep and true love can be, and it's so much fun to listen to. I adored it. And, I think that I'm with, so this is John singing it?
John and Paul in harmony.
John and Paul. So I'm guessing that John would probably be singing it about Paul, or maybe they're singing it about George.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. Who are they singing this about? Whoever it is, he needs to go and find her and apologize and get back with her, because she loves him enough to get through his meanness and whatever it was that he did. She'll forgive him. But he's got to, just go and get her. And you should be glad, because that kind of love is rare. So beautiful. What did you think about this one?
Well, now you've deciphered the lyrics, because you are the lyric guy, of course.
Yeah, the instruments were good.
Yeah. So I'll get into the song. I obviously love the Beatles. And when we do these episodes on the Beatles, it's hard for me. And there will be songs upcoming that I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, I can be objective. This song is a little tough for me to be too objective on it, because this is really the one that kicked everything off. Mm-hmm. This is the song, and I've said it a bunch of times. You have to put yourself into the shoes of what other kind of music was coming out at the time, and this was different. The way the subject matter was in third person was odd. The way they were singing in unison. I love John Lennon's 325 Rickenbacker in this. That he's an amazing rhythm player. I don't think people give him enough credit for it. But the one thing that sticks out in this to me, and it's in all 3 versions we listen to, is the bass. Paul's bass is strong, and it's actually kind of abnormal for a song coming out in 1963. It's understandable. They mix it on the 2023 mix. It's a little more forward, but you can hear it pretty clear in it. And the bass is great. The harmonies are great. This is atypical early Beatles, with which John and Paul did on a lot of songs they sang together. And I love the way it sounds. George's lead guitar on it, there's just little licks you can kind of hear kicking in there. They're great. I think if I have any critique of the original song, is it does suffer a little bit of that tinny drumming from the 60s, but you can tell Ringo's right on beat. But if you listen to that 2023 remix, they've really pushed Ringo's drums to the front, and you can tell what an underrated drummer he is and how he kept this band together. I think this song, I love this song, and I'm one that started with late Beatles and worked my way back. And I think a lot of latecomers did that because, you know, your Hey Judes and the Revolutions or whatever it is on the later side of the stuff was more pertaining to me as a teenager, but then I worked my way back. But I find myself loving their early stuff just as well. It's just a different mood. Okay, should we get to the B-side? I'll get you.
Yes.
Okay, let me give you a little history on this song. So this was obviously the B-side to She Loves You. It was released on August 23rd, 63 in the UK. September 16th, 1963 in the U.S. It was recorded on the same day, like I told you before, EMI Studios, of course, produced by George Martin. Once again, written by Lennon and McCartney, and once again, another duet from the combo.
And I'm pretty sure that all of this is because they were paying for it by the hour.
It probably is, yeah. The song's original title was called Get You in the End. So the song's original title was Get You in the End. Now, this is another song that was written, kind of like I stated on She Loves You, with the duo facing each other with their guitars, but this one was written at John Lennon's Aunt Mimi's Menlove Avenue home in Liverpool. This was a single only in the UK, but it was released in April of 1964 on the Beatles' second album. And that was the name of it, the Beatles' second album. So this one, once again, pretty straightforward lyrics. Paul McCartney has said the lyrics were inspired from Lewis Carroll, using words like imagine and picture, taking the listener on a ride, saying, okay, imagine this, picture this. And you see that in a lot of the later Beatles songs too. It's something they want you to imagine.
Yeah.
It was also said that this was probably going to be the next lead single until they recorded She Loves You, and that song just stood out much better. And I think this song previously released From Me to You, which was a little slower song, and this one fits the beat a little bit better. And I think that's why they wanted She Loves You released, because it was a more upbeat, faster song.
Yeah. It would have been a mistake to have this one be the A-side.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. But both John and Paul have been stated in multiple interviews that this song is one of their favorites of their early songs.
So it sounds like they probably, when they did the compilation, they thought, oh, well, this is one of our favorites. This is going to be the A-side for sure. And then they didn't really pay attention until they heard how She Loves You turned out. And they're like, oh, no, that one's the A-side.
Yeah, it kicks better. It's got more power to it. And they obviously made the right decision, which I think with the Beatles, I mean, if you look at their career, they pretty much made the right decisions most of the time. So after listening to this, like you stated earlier, it's your first time listening. What are your thoughts on I'll Get You?
So my thoughts on this is your quintessential early Beatles sound. This is the boys with the bowl cuts and the suits playing their instruments, and they're having a great time. And it's more subdued. It's not as intense. Although listening to the lyrics and what he's saying, he's talking about pursuing this girl. I think this is kind of defining that whole desire of being pursued that this girl's feeling. And so he's like, oh, I will definitely fulfill that desire that you have to be pursued. But I want you to know, I'm not going to pursue you for nothing. I will get you in the end. I will. Yeah, we're going to be in love because I've seen it so many times. Maybe this song's a little creepy.
Yeah, it could be, but I would also think after the success of these singles and them hitting big in the U.S., they probably didn't have to pursue too many people after that.
No, you don't get that sense. But I think that I'm also looking at the 1960s through 2020s glasses, and after the #MeToo movement.
Yeah.
So yeah, these guys they're talking about pursuing a girl, and he'll get her in the end, and I think that's exactly what she wanted. John and Paul are going to pursue me. Yeah, eventually they'll get me. I'm just going to play hard to get for a while, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the era. This is the time of playing hard to get. And they're having fun with it, and they're having a good time. And I think they did exactly what Lewis Carroll talked about doing. Just, imagine this, picture that. They painted the picture, and it turned out wonderfully. What are your thoughts about I'll Get You?
I've always liked this song. Once again, as in She Loves You, you've got the yeah, yeah, yeahs. This song opens up with, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And it's got the Lennon harmonica in it throughout, which is kind of haunting in this song in a funny way. I really like it, the way it's in the background. And once again, this song has got an amazing bass line. It's one thing that sticks out to me every time I listen to early Beatles songs is Paul's bass lines. And I just think of how if Paul McCartney can be, he is an underrated bass player still. Or maybe he's not, but I don't think people, when, you know, somebody names the top 10 bass players or whatever, it doesn't seem like he's in there. But you got Ringo keeping perfect time on this. The middle 8 is really good. It's got excellent harmonies in it. And I think this is an all-around great song. And I think it was, even though I love it, I think it was perfect relegated to the B-side to She Loves You. And I think it was a good counter to that song as well. Great song.
But for sure, this one belongs on the B-side, just because when it's countered with She Loves You, this is the beta, not the alpha on that.
I agree, but a good mix. So do you want to get the song ratings?
I do.
Song rating.
Okay, so the Beatles. These guys, there's nothing going to be south of 5 for them, so we just write that off. Our rating system, we're going to do 5 to 10 on this. And when it comes to the A side of this single, She Loves You, it's very difficult for me not to give it a 10. It's a very high 9, and I'm not exactly sure why I'm going to knock it down a peg from being a full-on 10, because listening to it actively, it does give you that feeling and generates that excitement, that whole embodiment of the British invasion and the Beatlemania starting up, and it's just, that's what this is all about. Even so, it's just not my favorite Beatles song, so I knock it down a peg to a 9. And yet, this is just a happy-go-lucky, sweet song about being loved enough to beat your stupidity, and that kind of love is so rare to find, and it's just like the Beatles' success, you know? You don't see that kind of thing every day, and that's what this song's about. Beautiful, solid 9. What do you give it, Justin?
Yeah, so this is really the song that started it all here in the U.S., and because I actually love this song, I love the music to it, I love the lyrics, I love the harmonies, they're everything about the Beatles I love, I definitely rate this song a 10. It's funny because when I could say it's not one of my favorite Beatles songs, and I can say it is one of my favorite Beatles songs, but that's a pretty big category for me.
Mm-hmm.
And something you said earlier is there won't be any lesser than 5. There will be some in the future for me that are lesser than 5.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm very biased towards the Beatles, but there are songs that I will call out that just don't do it for me. But this song, She Loves You, is a 10. It's got so much history behind it for me, and it's still a rocking, good song to this day. I think it stands out to what other music was coming out in 64 as well, which is really what propelled the Beatles. So, yeah, definite 10 for me. So on the B side, I'll get you. What do you rate that song?
That one, I knock it down even a couple more pegs. I give it a 7. And it's just, it's probably the not quite as talented little brother that's in the shadow of Big Brother, She Loves You. But I'll get you. It's part of it's, you know, the fact that it's my first time listening to it. I don't know why I feel like I'm apologizing for giving it the rating I am, but
no,
hey,
you shouldn't.
It's not everything that I want in a Beatles song the way that other ones are, and yet I have to admire and respect the place that this song holds in the hearts of John and Paul after writing it, after coming up with it, after performing it, and them saying, oh, this is one of our favorite songs. I have to respect that and admire it about them. And so this song, it's not a bad song at all. Solid 7. Where do you give it?
Yeah, we're about on. You rated She Loves You a 9. I'm a 10. You're a 7 on this. I'm an 8. I really enjoy this song. I like the yin and yang between the two. And I think that's what I've always liked about the Beatles is they always kept you on your feet. And what you expected them to do, they never did twice, really. And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy even these early songs. So it's a solid 8 for me. And that's coming from a pretty big Beatles fan, but yeah, really good song. So that's She Loves You and I'll Get You by the Beatles on our Meet the Beatles series. But if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, send them to us at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. And once again, I certainly appreciate you listening to us. I know Tyler does as well.
I certainly do.
So until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya. Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.